Now, in a major development in the Tata Mistry row, Tata Sons has issued a 9-page letter bomb accusing Cyrus Mistry of using devious methods to take control of some group companies. In a point-by-point rebuttal of Cyrus Mistry's earlier charges, Tata Sons accused the ousted chairman of twisting facts. Also, in a big setback to Tata Sons' former chairman Cyrus Mistry, Tata Sons has removed Cyrus Mistry as the TCS chairman, replacing him with Ishaq Hussain. Sumit Chaturvedi joins us live on the latest on the Tata Mistry row. Sumit, what are you picking up at this point of time? I mean, Ishaq Hussain has been, anointed as the new chairman of Tata Consultancy Services, and a whole host of speculation arising on whether the ex-TCS chairman will now go on to be the chairman of Tata Sons.
Well, Chati, it still remains a speculation whether N. Chandrasekharan will go and take over charge as Tata Sons chairman or not. But yes, one thing is very certain, that there are many changes happening within the Tata Sons group, and that's what is leading to this or fueling this kind of speculation. But yes, it happened earlier in the day that Tata Group informed BSE that TCS will have a new interim chairman, Ishaq Hussain, who is a long veteran. He's a veteran in Tata Group. He was at the helm of Tata Steel and other group companies. So he is going to take over as interim chairman of TCS, which is contributing most to the Tata Sons kitty. On the other hand, today also in the afternoon, they launched a scathing attack on Cyrus Mistry with a 9-page letter, strongly worded and giving a point-by-point rebuttal to Mistry's accusations. So they had leveled. Now Tata Sons says that Mistry tried to do so many things which he shouldn't, and that is one of the reasons why he was ousted from the chairmanship of Tata Sons.
Could you just highlight the main things that the letter really has to say, a bit of a highlight as to what Tata Sons has really written in that letter, which is accusing Cyrus Mistry of those devious means in which he's conducting business allegedly?
Well, Tata Sons said that none of the companies except TCS could do well under Mistry. Take the example of Tata Motors or Tata Tele. None of them have performed very good. In fact, the dividend fell during the tenure of Mr. Mistry, and that is one of the reasons why he is being called an underperformant or non-performant within the Tata Group. Also, they said that he tried to wrest control of many group companies through illegal means or unfair means. For example, Indian Hotels. In fact, we should bring this to light for our viewers that Indian Hotels has called for an extra general meeting to oust Cyrus Mistry from the chairmanship of that Indian Hotels also. So clearly it's going to be murkier in the coming few days. But yes, today Tata Sons has issued a strongly worded letter giving a point-by-point rebuttal to Cyrus Mistry's claims against Tata Sons. So clearly this whole saga is going to become more and more murkier going forward.
Absolutely. Now, you said the Indian Hotels board meeting was on today. Are you picking up anything at this point of time, or do we have to wait for a little while till you come to us with the update on what's happening in the board meeting right now?
Well, there's a fight going on here because Cyrus Mistry, some of the directors on IHCL board are on Cyrus Mistry's side, while some of the directors are on the side of Tata Sons also. So going forward in future, it will be clear what happens there. But yes, Tata Sons is making every attempt to oust Cyrus Mistry from the board of Indian Hotels also. Well, Indian Hotels under its umbrella has flagship hotels like Taj Mansingh, Taj Group of other hotels throughout the world, and not only in India. So going forward, it will be further clear.
Right. Thank you so much, Sumit. My colleague Sumit Chaturvedi there on the update on the Tata Mistry row. He will be tracking this story very carefully, and the WION team will keep bringing you point-by-point updates on the developments on the Tata Mistry row. Now, on another note, the whole country was taken by surprise when Prime Minister Modi announced ban on 500 and 1,000 rupee notes on Tuesday. But the scheme had been in work for the past 6 months. In fact, the Prime Minister himself had given indications in his past few rallies that a surgical strike on black money can happen. WION team reports on what went behind the scenes before the surgical strike on black money was announced.
We have decided.
In his first televised address since taking charge, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi announced demonetisation through banning of the 500 and 1,000 rupee notes. But this surgical strike on black money was on the mind of the Prime Minister since the beginning of the year, and work on this has started from the middle of the current year. the Prime Minister had kept in loop around 10 people, including former RBI Governor Raghuram Rajan. Banks were already told that they would be receiving the new banknotes, but none, not even the powerful heads of the biggest state-owned and private banks, were aware of the decision on banning the notes. On Tuesday, even before Modi's address to the nation was being telecast across television channels, the Reserve Bank of India had already started dispatching the new series of 500 and 2000 rupee notes to banks across the country. The central bank then ramped up production of notes of smaller denominations. It also started work on producing the new 500 and 2000 rupee notes. Prime Minister Modi had earlier indicated that a surgical strike on black money was coming. In one of his rallies last month in Gujarat, he said the government had collected 1 lakh crore rupees already from black money hoarders, and more can be collected if a surgical strike on black money takes place. However, one of the big challenges besides the execution of such a scheme was to keep the whole process confidential. So the discussions and the decisions in the early days of the proposal were verbal and unofficial. Though government officials are also surprised how the images of the new 2000 rupee denomination notes or the similar ones had already leaked online on social media. Bureau Report, WION.
Now in other news, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi rolled out the Pradhan Mantri Yuva Yojana for entrepreneurs. The Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship announced the launch. The Yojana targets to scale up an ecosystem of entrepreneurship for youngsters. The scheme spans over 5 years from now with a project cost of 500 crore rupees and will provide entrepreneurship education and training to over 7 lakh students in 5 years through 3,050 institutes. It will also include easy access to information and mentor work, credit incubation, acceleration and advocacy to create a pathway for the youth. Now let's go on to speak to our startup specialist, Jairaj Mashru, who joins us from Bombay. Jairaj, good evening and welcome to WION Wallet.
Yeah, hi Jayati. Thanks so much for having me.
Now tell me, what is the startup ecosystem in India really looks like, and how are you welcoming this move? What do you have to say as somebody who's worked very closely with startup schools, as an educator, as somebody who consults various companies and accelerates them?
Well, actually, this is a very, obviously a very good initiative. It's hitting the nail right on its head. One of the things that the startup movement in India is really lacking is standardized access to the best information, to proper infrastructure for incubating companies, to have equal access to high-quality mentorship. It's not just about pumping in money and bringing in foreign investors or, making it easy for investors to invest in companies. The startup ecosystem is made up of a lot of other actors as well. You need to have skilled talent. You need to have people who are able to experiment with ideas at a very fast pace and as well as with low investment stakes. And these are things that are happening extremely well in other startup ecosystems around the world, obviously the most famous one being Silicon Valley. But I'm really happy to see, the Indian government taking a direct approach.
You mentioned Silicon Valley now. How differently does the world view Indian startup culture really? I mean, we all know, we all go by the example of Silicon Valley always, but what about India? How are we really viewed by the rest of the world as a startup culture?
That's a good question. I was recently reading a study. There's a couple of them out there, rankings of startup ecosystems, the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor as well. And some of the differences they highlight, all of them together agree on this. I think Bangalore as a startup ecosystem ranks the highest amongst the Indian ones. It's ranked at about 15 in the world. But the biggest difference actually is not in the ecosystem, it's also in the entrepreneurs. In that the average age of some of the better startup ecosystems around the world, the average age of a founder is about 36. In India, it's 28. Which is not just to say that, okay, we are a young country, we have a younger population, so naturally the age will be younger, but I think it also goes to see how much experience they're bringing into their startup, because they're that much younger. while they have a bigger risk appetite, but they might not have the right necessary skills and experiences. They might not have failed enough before. And, once you're in your 30s, late 30s, your view of the world is different as well. So some of these things do make a difference in the startup ecosystem. It means 48% of entrepreneurs in the Silicon Valley have experienced in high-growth startups before they are actually founders. In India, it's 14% of the founders and only 30% of the rest of the people.
So that means India still has a really long way to go as far as the startup ecology really kicks in properly. Now, how easy is seed capital and funding available to our startup entrepreneurs? And at the back of this move, how refreshing it is now, the way the rest of the world now sees in India?
I think that's great because, earlier they had in the budget earlier this year, they had announced a fund of funds where through the government agencies, the government will actually invest in venture capital, private equity funds, and make money more easily available. They've also changed the rules a little bit for how to incentivize foreign investors to get into the startup movement in India. Now today's announcement was more about skilling entrepreneurship. Because one of the things that this, age gap and experience gap requires is a lot of training in how to create lean startups and how to experiment and prototype. And some of the things that India is really known for is, for example, frugal engineering, frugal innovation, even the last mile supply chain. We figured that out better than many other countries.
Right. And Jairaj, if you could just quickly, on a winding note, highlight what are the initial impediments that startups are currently facing in India? And of course, now the fintech industry has taken center stage. How do you see the fintech industry go on from here on the back of demonetization? And how much funding do you think they will end up getting? And very quickly, we need to wrap up on this one.
Yeah, absolutely. I think these are events of disruption, which only the startups are best poised to capitalize on because they're nimble enough and they're generally up to speed on technology to take the most advantage of these kind of things. So obviously the Paytm story is making all the news since the last 1 or 2 days. But I would imagine that the more this government starts, implementing large schemes like this, the more startups will be able to reach the unicorn status.
All right, thank you so much, Jairaj, for joining us. Jairaj Mashru joining us from Mumbai on the startup ecology. And I'm glad he mentioned Paytm because that's the new wave, fintech currently. Now, Prime Minister Modi's decision to demonetize 500 and 1,000 rupee notes are giving m-commerce, where Paytm really falls in, a whole new meaning. Digital India finally gets a concrete direction. This step-by-step of the central government will now give a boost to mobile e-wallets. Let's take a look at that package.
We are finally moving in the direction of a cashless economy. Paytm's tweet, "Ab ATM nahi, Paytm karo," have gone viral. LiveQuick founder Mohit Lalwani welcomes this move and says this is going to be the new sunrise sector riding on high valuations.
So I definitely believe that fintech and payments has become the sunrise sector for India now. With this directive and the crackdown on black money by the government of India, we're going to see a massive spike in adoption of mobile wallets and digital payments. So as a company, over the last 2 days, our volumes have doubled in terms of transaction volume. We have some of our merchants who were inactive and weren't using our product are calling us up and saying, okay, how do we get started again? So this is all sort of very interesting because it is in the interest of the nation, in the interest of our economy, to move cashless, to become a less cash country. And with this directive by the government of India, I think this is just the fillip that the whole sector needed. We've just got the impetus now to go ahead and go all out.
Most mobile wallets are seeing a sudden and strong surge of customers, and the volume of customer influx is rising at an average of 40% since Tuesday. Currently, there is no regulation that says that one needs to disclose e-wallets to the tax department, the one thing that one needs to do with bank accounts. We have to wait and watch what the centre does about introducing one. For smaller sums, this seems to be a viable and a convenient way to transfer small amounts of money for most people. In New Delhi, Chaiti Narula, WION.
नया तरीका शुरू करो।
All right, fintech, the new sunrise sector in India, and that was the founder of LiveQuick giving us a lowdown on how fintech is the future now that the country's into a demonetization mode of sorts. Now let's shift our focus to the markets. The Sensex ended up 240 points today, roughly a percent higher in trade at 27,493 mark, and the Nifty too ended a percent higher at the 8,520 mark, and that's where it's found its support. Now the banking index posted the biggest day gain in the last 8 months. The winners today, Tata Steel, SBI, Cipla, Coal India and ICICI clearly top gainers of the day now, while Asian Paints, Hero MotoCorp, HDFC, Lupin and Bajaj Auto were the ones that weighed the index down. Now, bad news coming in there for the Chinese markets, with Trump's presidential stature is going to prove to be risky for China and India and Asia, as protectionism is likely to seep in. The Nikkei, Straits Times, Taiwan Index and the Hang Seng all ended in the green in trade this morning. Now let's bring in our markets expert to understand what next really for the Asian indices. Good evening, Mr. Tucker.
Hello.
Mr. Tucker, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Good evening and welcome to WION Wallet. Now, how do you really see the Asian stocks behave now that Trump is the new president? Will his policies on protectionism not augur well for Asia?
I personally feel that whatever has been told by him before the election results were different than what he has said on the day after he was being declared as the president of the United States of America. The change of language, which was very distinguished, that what he was telling all the time about every country, including India. Subsequently, of course, he changed his tone so far as India is concerned, that he loves India, he loves Hindu, and perhaps he would like to follow the same principle as our Prime Minister. But to me personally, appears that a person who speaks out of the White House and then in the White House, things will materially differ. Whatever has happened yesterday, it was only because of the demonetization of this 500 and 1,000 rupee note. And secondly, there was a big hype created that if Mr. Donald Trump is getting elected, it is going to be a bad news for the market. And that is how we just have a deep sink, almost up to 1,700 points. But if you really look at these other markets yesterday, who are equally affected because America is going to affect globally, not only to India, none of these markets have reacted that sharply on the negative side except India. People must have realized this. That whatever they have heard and what he has been now saying is totally different. And that is why we could see some kind of recovery yesterday. And today morning, China, for the Japan Nikkei, was yesterday down by about 900 points. Today it is up about 1,000 points. Same is the case with Europe. Yesterday Europe was also green. And so the question of here in India, it is mainly because of the short cover. Market was extremely in oversold position. And I think it is still in oversold position. And things we are seeing today, and likely to continue for tomorrow also.
Right, and the rally across the globe clearly indicates that the market had fully priced in some sort of a victory of Donald Trump already, because we saw a fair bit of correction happening last week. Where do you think the market is now likely to go? Do we expect to see some sort of a consolidation come in?
Yeah, it's very easy to say that whatever has been outsourced from this particular country, he will stop everything. Ultimately, when you want to go for a technology sector, you really require some kind of a skilled people. How many of them are really available today in America is a question mark. Assume that even some people are definitely available is not going to put a big dent on even companies like TCS or Infosys or Wipro. And I think there is no cause for worry. Number two, the market has reacted positively only for the reason that everyone knows that if you really want to have kind of a development, and he said would like to have a great America again, you need to have the kind of a cooperation from all the parts of the world. You cannot isolate yourself and say, I become myself the great. So I think the things will be realized shortly. This particular person, he has no other political experience. He has never been in the Senate, never been in the Congress, and he didn't participate in politics. It quite happens that once he goes to the White House, he will really realize what is the truth and how the whole economy can be handled. I am personally of the opinion that we should more concentrate on our own economy, which is growing at the fastest rate in the whole world. And the kind of measures that are being taken by the government are really very positive.
All right.
Yes, it may take some time, but we should not be too much of negative so far as our market is concerned.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mr. Thakkar, for joining us with that quick markets update of the global indices. Now, speaking about global indices, European markets started slightly higher as they continue to rebound following Donald Trump's victory in the US elections. Now, France's CAC, Germany's DAX and Britain's FTSE all posting positive gains as we speak. Now, shifting our focus to commodities, the gold prices have gone up today, rising by 0.54% at 30,040 per 10 grams. Gold prices have witnessed volatility in the last few days on the back of government's announcement of ban of 500 and 1,000 rupee notes. Good time now for us to bring in a commodities expert and discuss the gold pricing. Good evening, can you hear me?
Yes, good evening.
Ranisha, let's start off by talking about gold now. Gold is seeing a fair bit of rally in trade. Now, do you think demonetization is really responsible for this?
Yes, I think there are two main factors that affected the gold prices yesterday, and we saw a great volatility coming in the prices. Prices shot up to 4.5% yesterday and then again came back to the original levels. The main factor was the Donald Trump victory, and the other factor was demonetization. And for Indian customers, it is true that gold is considered to be a safe haven investment in all times, and paper money may let you down, but gold will never betray you. So government announcement would considerable panic among people, and they immediately sought refuge in gold. And that is how the safe haven commodity it is called, and it is useful in every crisis. We saw that due to this demonetization, the investors went to various jeweler shops, and gold was sold in a premium to around 40,000 to 50,000 rupees per 10 gram. The current price in market is around 30,000, but if they come up with old notes, they would be given the price premium of 40,000 to 50,000 per gram. So
now, you know, gold is something which is seen as a safe haven of sorts under uncertain circumstances, and that's the real reason why we usually see an uptick when there is uncertainty surrounding in the market. And the sudden surge, do you think this is going to wean off over a period of time and this is just a knee-jerk reaction, or do you see the rally continue for the next couple of weeks to come?
Yes, I think this uncertainty would continue for a time being, and people would continue to buy gold. World over also, and at India level also, demand would continue to increase. I see prices which are trading around 30,000 can shoot up to around 33,000 in the next 2-3 months. I see a 10% increment in the prices over a few weeks period of time. And there is a huge demand coming in from India. This would be a contributing factor that would support the prices.
Thank you so much, Ranisha, for joining us on the commodity market. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of WION Wallet. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you tomorrow evening at 5:30 p.m.